The United Nations says cuts in international aid have compounded Yemen's food crisis. Houthis intend to limit enrollment in judicial education to the group's affiliates only. Fire erupts at displaced camp in Marib and causes serious damage. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news summary. Shazad Delbani. The United Nations Food Agency warned that 4 million Yemenis are going to receive less food assistance as a result of funding shortages, resulting in one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. This report has more details.
The World Food Programme (WFP) has warned that funding shortages will result in over 4 million Yemenis receiving less food assistance, exacerbated by one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. The WFP expects that without new funding, over 4 million people will receive less food assistance, many of them women and children, already suffering from some of the highest malnutrition rates in the world. The actual number of people affected could be higher, with major cuts announced across different programs. The United Nations agency is aware and fully cognizant of the suffering these cuts will cause. Yemen, the Arabian Peninsula's poorest country, is already in the grasp of one of the planet's worst humanitarian crises after 8 years of war. For the next 6 months, WFP requires $1.5 billion in funding, with only 28% of which has been secured. Yemen will remain one of WFP's largest food assistance operations, but these cuts represent a significant reduction to the agency's program in the country. The funding shortages are happening at a time of more people becoming severely malnutritioned.
طفلة أصيبت بسوء التغذية من صغرها. عندما أحس بإصابة ابني بسوء التغذية هذا يشعرني بالقلق. أحيانا فعلا أضطر إلى بيع بعض الأشياء من داخل البيت من أجل توفير الصحة لبنتي.
اضطريت إنني أبيع كل حاجة من معي ذهباتي بيت عشان أولادي يما مرض ويما عالجته وعشان ما أكل إحنا وعشان كل حاجة.
زادت حالات سوء التغذية بسبب عدم توفر الأمن الغذائي. نتمنى من برنامج الغذاء العالمي الاستمرار في مثل هذه البرامج، وخصوصا تفعيل برنامج الغذاء التكميلي الوقائي الذي هو بواسطته نستطيع أن نتغلب على حالات سوء التغذية، هو القضاء على هذا المرض في المجتمع.
عندما تلقيت بعض المساعدات التغذية يعني تحسنت نوعا ما، تحسنت حالتي برضه مع تحسن صحة ابنتي.
UNICEF warned that millions of children in Yemen are at risk of disease if they don't receive routine vaccinations. In a statement, the UNICEF said that lack of funding puts millions of children at risk, as more than 1 million children will miss routine vaccinations. The organization added that 1.8 million children will not have access to safe drinking water, and 500,000 will not be able to access education. Informed sources in the capital Sana'a said that the Houthis have started a set of measures which aim to private the Judiciary Council Higher Institute in Sana'a and limit the enrollment in the institute to the group's affiliates only. This report has more details.
The Houthis are seeking to privatize the Judiciary Council Higher Institute in Sana'a and limit education to only followers and members of the group. Local activists shared documents provided by the Houthis, which contained revised application requirements for the institute. According to judicial sources in Sana'a, these requirements are racially discriminatory and incapacitating, preventing all persons interested in pursuing judicial studies from attending the institute, and restricting access solely to Houthi members. New requirements for applying to study at the institute were incorporated in the materials. Candidates must come from a family that actively participates in the conflict and opposes both the legitimate government and the Arab alliance that backs it. They must have taken Houthi academic and cultural classes and taken part in the fighting. The Houthis also require new candidates who seek to study at the Department of Higher Specialized Studies and Diploma in Criminal Sciences to pay for all study and training fees if approved. The condition sparked wide student and public outrage for breaking the statute requiring free education and training. Applicants must also provide an overview of their jihadist history, stating their willingness to serve on the front lines if summoned by field commanders. Several students who held scientific and academic credentials expressed disapproval over these conditions, accusing the group of converting the institution into a for-profit enterprise. They claim that the Houthi terms intend to deny them the same standing as former peers. In 2018, the Yemeni government announced it would transfer the judiciary. In 2018, the Yemeni government announced it would transfer the Judiciary Council Higher Institute under Houthi control to the interim capital Aden. The Houthi militia pushed its followers to study at the institute. Many of the new members of the Judiciary Institute failed the entrance examinations, according to informed sources in Sana'a, who accused the militias of hiring ineligible students as part of their strategy to take over the judiciary.
One Houthi official was reported to have kidnapped 3 teachers and assaulted others in Damar. Local sources said the Houthi official arrested 3 teachers from their homes in the districts and transferred them to the board's security prison. The sources added 7 other teachers were assaulted by the Houthi official in the same district, and it was reported that the assaulted teachers were transferred to a nearby hospital. Local sources in Taiz said that the Houthi militia bombed some villages in the past hours. The sources stated that the Houthi militia bombed the villages using 40 mortar shells within 24 hours. According to the same sources, the Houthi bombing caused massive damage to property and homes of locals in the area. A massive fire broke out on Friday in one of the displaced camps in Ma'rib, northeastern Yemen. According to our reporter, the fire broke out in Raudan's Safer camp, which led to the destruction of the home of the chief of General People's Conference Party in the city. From time to time, displaced camps in Ma'rib are exposed to many fire incidents. The fire incidents caused massive material and human losses. This report has more details.
Not a day passes by in Ma'rib without a fire erupting in a displacement camp, reducing vital shelters into piles of ashes. On one tragic day, 2 fires ignited in 2 separate locations. A fire in the Raudan Sulfur camp consumed the house of Sheikh Mansour Saleh As-Sayadi, head of the General People's Congress branch in Ma'rib, devouring his furniture, personal belongings, and documents. Meanwhile, another fire broke out at the As-Suwaida camp in the home of a displaced family, killing a child inside.
Yesterday, an electric failure led to a fire outbreak that devoured the house entirely, including furniture, gold jewelry, documents and passports. I'd like to thank the Safa Camp electric employees for putting out the fire. We are in a desert terrain without access to adequate fire protection. Yesterday's fire outbreak was wholly unprepared for. We urge the Executive Care Unit and relevant authorities to equip us with fire safety measures.
People demanded that concerned authorities and humanitarian organizations urgently intervene to save the affected families who have resorted to sleeping out in the open in the wake of the fire.
Yesterday's tragedy was immensely painful. Sheikh Mansour and his family belongings were all lost in the fire. This camp is highly susceptible to fire outbreaks, and more safety measures should be implemented to curb the threat of fires. Donor money should be used to ensure sufficient procedures are in place.
Fires are a common concern in Ma'rib's camps, where people live in extremely confined bamboo and tarpaulin huts. Safety measures that may enable people to curb the fire threats and reduce losses are lacking due to severe government negligence. More than 140 dwellings have been ravaged by flames since the beginning of this year. According to the management of the refugee camp, 7 persons died and 18 others were injured.
بن ثياب نشطط يعني ثياب نروح عن القرى نحوس وهذا نروح بثياب ونصلحها مآوي لنا وكراتين من الشوارع. والله إن احنا نكره يجي المطر يخسع لنا البطانيات يخسع الفراش يخسع الجماش نسمر برادة خاسعين احنا وجهالنا.
فالمأوى الانتقالي هذا الكثير جعلتهم يعيشوا في استقرار للمستفيدين من ناحية سواء من ناحية الأمطار أو لا من ناحية العواصف والرياح والرملية، بما أنه عندنا هنا في مأرب الرياح بتكون شديدة.
Coming next in the news. World Health Organization says rise in measles in Yemen requires urgent intervention. Welcome back. Yemen seeing alarming rise in measles cases, Doctors Without Borders say. Low immunization rates and rising malnutrition, both exacerbated by the 9 years war of the conflict, are playing a major role in the rise in the measles cases. This report has more details.
The alarm on surging child malnutrition in Yemen has exacerbated other diseases. Over the past 3 years, there has been a significant increase in the number of children admitted to Medicine Sans Frontières MSF hospitals in Yemen for measles. In the first half of 2023, the number of measles patients received in MSF-supported facilities nearly tripled, reaching almost 4,000. This is due to the impact of nearly 9 years of conflict and economic hardship, which has made it difficult for people in remote areas to afford fuel or transport to bring their children to the hospital. The absence of vaccination campaigns and affordable general health care facilities further exacerbates the situation, causing patients to arrive in MSF-supported hospitals with complications, including advanced stage measles, which could be avoided with preventive care such as vaccination or timely medical treatment. United Nations agencies have also highlighted the severe increase in vaccine-preventable disease in Yemen, with over 22,000 measles cases in 2022, including 161 deaths. In April of this year, there had already been 16,114 cases, with diphtheria and pertussis cases also on the rise. In some health centers, activities to cater to the increased needs have been adapted to cater to the increased needs. Nearly 52% of cases were complicated and only 12% had been vaccinated prior to admission. This lack of immunization appears driven by logistical barriers, such as restrictions on humanitarian imports, the number of health facilities able to provide vaccinations, and an absence of health education to highlight the essential role of vaccines in protecting people from diseases like measles. To address this grave health crisis, a comprehensive and coordinated response is required. To protect Yemeni children from the risk of measles, it's essential to bolster preventive measures, community involvement, and enhance case management. Authorities, humanitarian and health actors in Yemen must ensure that all children are treated with the best possible care and that they receive the necessary support to prevent the spread of the disease. Malnutrition weakens the immune system, making children, especially those who are not vaccinated, even more vulnerable to the deadly impact of measles. These conditions are preventable and highlighted the lack of essential health care and the poor economic conditions for people in Yemen. These factors have had a substantial impact on the lives of people.
In Aden, the National Committee for Fighting Money Laundering organized a workshop on capacity building for its members. In addition, the workshop dealt with the intervention of fighting money laundering and terrorist financing, which targeted the Central Bank of Yemen. The workshop aimed to raise the awareness of the committee members of the risks of non-compliance in its different economic, political, and social levels. At least 12 people have died and injured due to rain in Sada. Local sources said that 3 people died and 8 others were injured in a collapse of a number of homes in Sada due to harsh weather conditions. Heavy rains caused injuries and deaths.
يعني علاقتي بالبحر هذه كما الصديق. يعني لما روحنا ضروري نروح المهم نروح البحر، ما نفارق البحر نحن. يعني البحر يعني مرة يعني أحسن من الصديق نشوفه نحن. بعد الحرب يعني شفنا معاناة وايد.
Yemen's government pledged to implement economic reforms in addition to effectively disperse the Saudi package in order to fulfill its goals of strengthening the state budget and boosting food security. This report has more details.
Rashad Al-Alimi, the chairman of the Presidential Leadership Council, expressed gratitude to the Saudi leadership on Thursday for the latest financial assistance package to boost his country's economy, a day after his government pledged to use the aid efficiently. Local sources report that the Yemeni leader wrote a letter to Saudi Defense Minister Prince Khalid bin Salman in which he thanked King Salman and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman for $1.2 billion in financial aid to help the Yemeni government pay public employees and import fuel and food. It sent a clear message that Yemen has loyal brothers and that the kingdom remains at the forefront of efforts to restore state institutions and achieve the just peace that the Yemeni people deserve. Yemenis say the new financial aid package has helped their year recover and saved the government from bankruptcy after Houthi drone attacks on oil facilities halted crude exports. The Houthis have also prohibited local traders from utilizing government ports to import products, as well as gas imports from government-controlled Ma'rib city, depriving the government of alternative cash streams. Yemen's government on Wednesday pledged to implement economic reforms, in addition to effectively dispersing the Saudi package in order to fulfill its goals of strengthening the state budget and boosting food security. Peace efforts in Yemen have mostly stalled since October, when the Houthis refused to renew the UN-brokered truce and also launched drone assaults on oil installations in government-controlled Hadramaut and Shabwa, as well as refusing to lift their siege on ties.
Here's a reminder of the main headlines. The United Nations says cuts in international aid have compounded Yemen's food crisis. Houthis intend to limit enrollment in judicial education to the group's affiliates only. Fire erupts at displaced camp in Ma'rib and causes serious damage. This is the end of the news. Thank you for watching.